Welcome back. This is the CMS Esports and STEM League. This right here is week 2 of the app building competition. So this means your school was in season 0 or previous season. Now you guys are doing an app builder, right? Or building an app. So week 2 is all about design. We're going to go ahead and take the app idea that we made in week 1, and we are going to design a user interface for it. This is going to kind of give us an idea of what our app could look like. So, for example, if you thought about the apps or a store, an online store app, from the example from week 1, then you guys would kind of like mock up something that kind of looks like Amazon's app or maybe Walmart's app or something like that, right? So you guys are going to be designing and kind of laying that out. Why? Because you're going to make a video presenting it, and essentially you're using a non-functional design to kind of convey the idea of what your app will look like and what it might function like later on down the line when you actually make it. So we're doing this now, because this is kind of the stage where you would be presenting to like investors. So you don't really have the capital to build this yourself. So you're trying to convey to investors this amazing idea through this mock-up design. And hopefully, you get some investments, right? And then you can build your app. So first thing is first, we are actually using something called Thunkable later on in the next week and weeks after that. This is the no-code app builder application. So essentially, this lets you, drag in buttons, all that kind of stuff, and then program those so that they have functionality. And also it allows you to build a package for an app that you can put on the App Store. So this is the place where you're making an app, right? As you can see in the top left, I'm just going to give you a very quick overview. You got design, where you're going to put down components like buttons and such, and then you also have blocks where you can place down logic and actually make an app. So what we're looking at right here is just a mock-up app that I created in a few minutes. So over here on the left, you will see the Add Components tab. This is where you have all of your design components, right? So for example, you got a button, you got a text label that displays text, you got image, it's going to display an image, kind of self-explanatory, and then we get some more advanced things like video, a list viewer, which is this thing right here, just displays a scrollable list, sliders, loading icons, all that kind of stuff. So essentially, these are all the different things that you can design an app with, right? So also you can drag each component out onto the screen, like so. You just click and drag, drop it, and then you have a button, right? So you're kind of like dragging and dropping and kind of laying out what your app is going to look like and where things go where, right? Pretty self-explanatory. However, these buttons don't do anything. They have no functionality. Like if I were to play test it and click on the button, it's going to do nothing because we need to go to the blocks tab and use some blocks to kind of design the functionality there. But that's what we're going to do in later weeks. That's not what we're doing today. Today you just need to know that this is how you can drag and drop and structure your app, right? And of course, every time you put down a component, there's like a properties panel over here on the right that kind of lists all the different properties that you can change about that. So the button here is blue. One of the properties is the color, so I can actually change it to green if I want it, right? Using the properties panel on the right. So yes, this is where you're going to drag and drop all of your buttons and all that kind of stuff. Today, we're actually using a design tool called Figma, right? So Figma is a website that you go to kind of mock up web apps, mobile apps, all that kind of stuff. They'll give you the tools, creative tools, artistic tools to kind of design those as well. And obviously, there's a step-by-step guide with pictures on how to get through Figma, how to use Figma and all that stuff. So I'm just going to kind of, run through a quick overview. So after you've created your profile and all that stuff for Figma, and created a team project that's going to house all of your designs, you then click new design file. I already have too many. Wow. So assuming that you don't have too many files, you can go ahead and click new design file, and it's going to open up a new page for you to kind of design all of those things about your app. Now first, what are we looking at? We're looking at a blank canvas that has nothing on it. First thing that we need to do is create a kind of area, a canvas, for us to actually put down all the different pieces of the app onto, right? We can do that with frame. So up here, you can either click F, or you can go up here and click frame. And this is going to give us a properties panel on the right. It gives us a few different options to kind of size the frame. So you get different phone screens here, and they all have different resolutions. We're actually just going to use iPhone 14 since that actually works well with the Thunkable. And then it's going to create a canvas, an area for you to go ahead and place down some of your design stuff, right? So now that you have a frame, you can start putting down mock-up icons, mock-up buttons, mock-up images, text even if you wanted to do that as well. So essentially what we're going to do is click on the shapes thing up here. It's going to give us a few different shapes that we can use to kind of design our app, right? And so I'm thinking my app should have probably a menu at the very bottom. Kind of want a little menu that just kind of stays there all the time. So I'm going to drag a rectangle down there at the bottom, and that's going to kind of represent the menu. And of course, when I select it, then we have a properties panel, and I can change the color. And let's do a light red. Okay, that looks good. All right, so there's my bottom menu. And then I could also add circles down here to kind of make it look like I've got different buttons. Nice. I'm gonna change their color so I can actually see it instead of it being gray. Nice. Okay, so now I have a menu down here that's got different buttons for different areas that I want people to go to in my app. Now that's just the menu. Maybe this is the home screen. I kind of want to design that as well. Let's I think my home screen should probably have a image, an image that kind of represents what the app is about. Now I think this app is going to be a testament of my legacy, so I'm going to add my face in there for some reason. So that's the app's main image, right? And also I want a giant sign in button. So I'm gonna block that out with a giant rectangle. Also I want to make sure that I know it's a sign in it button. So I'm gonna click the giant T up here, which stands for text, so I can start typing in text. Sign in. And of course, by selecting it, we have properties over here on the right. We can change property as of. I'm going to change the font size to a much larger size here. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and drag it into the middle. There we go. I mocked up a sign-in button. Let's get one more thing in there, which should be okay, star. Yeah. So maybe we can favorite the sign-in button. I'm also going to make that yellow. And maybe I want to change the background. Okay, it's the canvas background. Nice. Yeah, it's the canvas, and then change the background of the sign-in button. There we go. Let's make it a nice dark blue. That's nice. All right, cool. So now I have created a mock-up for my app screen that I want to use um, uh, inside of Figma, and obviously, hopefully yours looks a little bit better than mine. It's mainly used to like kind of like see where certain things should go. Like I used it to decide that I wanted a menu at the bottom and not the top, and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to get too much further use out of that besides just kind of like mocking it up. And so now what we want to do is use this inside of Thunkable. Now this is the final step in that lesson document that kind of walks you through this whole process. We now need to put this inside of Thunkable. Now how do we do that? Well, first of all, we go over to Thunkable with our app. And then we go over here to the Assets tab on the very left menu. You'll see two things. You got media files. So if you wanted to upload images to Thunkable itself to kind of use for some of the background, like this gradient background I have here for the back, that's just an image that I made, right? In like Google Drawings, right? And then saved it as an image, uploaded it to media files, used that. But the other thing is something called Figma files, right? And of course, the other tool that we were using was Figma. So just hit that plus icon there. It's going to ask you to copy and paste a Figma link. You can literally just go to your tab, copy the link here, and paste it in. And then it's going to ask you which page do you want. We've only got one page. We want to use the first page, so we're going to say page 1, and we're going to click import. And then once it loads, it's going to generate our image. Or not an image, but it's going to essentially kind of like drag and drop the screen in here, and then we can also move the stuff around if we wanted to, and all that kind of cool stuff. Very cool, very good stuff, very good stuff. And obviously, each of these things are its own kind of like components that you can actually use inside of Figma. So like this sign-in button, I could totally use that as like a component itself if I wanted to. So instead of like if I'm really liking the button that I made, which I don't, but if I really liked it, then I would just then I would use it instead of dragging a button over top of it. Ideally, you would just mock up the kind of like where things go, and then you would do like what I just did, drag and drop a button onto it. But if you're really in love with it, then you can just use that as something targetable. Now, in order to give investors a good idea of like the flow of your app, you kind of need to be able to navigate through screens, right? Now, this is a very simple concept, and we'll get into more advanced stuff in week 3, but this is really simple code. It's like literally 2 blocks. So, and it's going to give a lot of depth to your presentation when you go up there to kind of like present your app in the video to mock investors. So, what we can do is go ahead and click web preview up here in the top right. That's going to kind of like simulate the app as if we were on a phone. Now this is what it would look like, and obviously we have a picture and a sign in button, but nothing works, right? Because we don't have any functionality. And the only functionality that we really want is something to kind of navigate through these screens. So if we go over to blocks, right? Well, first let's identify this is rectangle 2. We know that this button is rectangle 2. So let's go over to the blocks tab. And then we see rectangle 2 over here. Just click on it and you'll see a few different options. But what we want is this yellow block that essentially activates whenever we touch sign in. So with this, whenever we touch sign in, what do we want to do? We want to go to another page to kind of like simulate the flow of our app. And there's actually just one block that we need to do this. So click control, and then the first block, the top block, is navigate to. And then you can click this little drop down arrow and go to a different screen. So I'm actually just going to go to my home screen. So like, start screen, you sign in, and then you go to the home screen, right? That sounds like a good flow for an app. So when I go ahead and click web preview, now that you'll see when I actually click the sign in button, boom, it navigates me to another menu. Now, for you guys, this isn't going to work, right? None of these are going to work. It's not going to do calculations or anything. But when you click buttons, it will go to different pages, right? So I'm going to click save texts, and it's going to take me to another page. Now this doesn't actually work, but like, at least I can just show people what it would look like if it were working, right? So this is kind of what you might see if you're actually using the app. Of course, the back button works and all that stuff. So what you guys will do is use Figma to design all of these different screens, and then you will use those buttons to kind of add navigation between all of the screens. And then when you make your video, you hit play, you click the buttons, first you sign in, you go through this. Next, the user's going to want to, look at their saved text. They'll click that button. Once they're done here, they're actually going to want to go back to the home screen, that kind of thing, right? And that's what you can do. Yeah. So, also check out that lesson document for some good design principles, because you don't want something that looks as bad as what I just made. For example, you're going to want to use some design ethics that kind of specify what makes a good UI. For example, people already think that green means go and red means stop, because people drive, there's a stoplight, stop signs are red, stop lights are red, and then they turn green for go. So what you can do is make back buttons red and buttons that lead to important pages green, right? And also if you have a "Are you sure?" prompt, sometimes you do something in an app and it's "Are you sure you want to do that?" You'd make the yes button green and the no button red. So people already know, people already have an idea of what those buttons are going to do just based off of the color. And that is a principle in good design ethics that's actually covered in that lesson document. So go check that out. Again, open Thunkable, kind of create some screens. Use Figma, and I just showed you how to import screens with the Assets tab, and you're all set. And then we'll be using Thunkable to actually design some of the functionality for the app, the real functionality like calculations, all that good stuff, next week and the following weeks after that. So stay tuned, come back, make that challenge. In fact, week 2's challenge is creating a 1-minute video showcasing, the design of your app, right? So go ahead, go do those things, and we'll see you in week 3.